Let me check my other computer here.
Hey, what's up, everyone? So we are live, making sure all the technical stuff is ready to go, and we'll be starting in a couple minutes. So if you want to put your comments down below, we'll go through them. And as always, you share, subscribe, and like the video.
Cool. I'm so pumped for this video. I know you and I have talked briefly the last year or so to try to do this video, and the schedule's been super nuts. We talked, before we started the show on just how crazy it's been. Of you guys in Canada are stuck there, and here in the United States, we were racing our butts off.
You guys are living the life.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a little weird. In a couple of different areas that we travel to. This really depends on where you're at in the States. You go kind of the Seattle, Washington area, it's a little more strict. And then you come to Arizona or Florida, Alabama, Georgia, all that stuff. It's kind of a free for all. But yeah, at least we're doing it now and having some fun.
Another very Canadian thing. Our third co-host was stuck in a snowstorm, and I think he's down in the studio. For those of you who don't know who I am, don't worry, that's sort of normal. My name's Kevin. We race in Canada and work with J Concept and Associated. We try and do a couple of content, mostly in French, but Spencer was nice enough to get us on board, and we'll talk about 10 scale, 8 scale, everything that you guys want to know.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Yeah, I mean, obviously, some of you guys know from racing 8 scale, Bago goes to a lot of the Silver States and Nitro Challenge. He's been a big fan of mine. I know Kevin's a fan of mine as well. You guys are great. That's what's all about this hobby, is meeting people like you guys that have a bunch of passion and heart. Bago is, I believe you said he is stuck in a snowstorm, and he's going to drive as safe as possible to his home, and
He
we'll
should
get
be
him in the
there.
studio. Oh, cool.
So you should see him shortly. So yeah. So how was last weekend? I think you did the DNC warm-up.
Yeah, last weekend we did basically the first ever club race event at our new event, or excuse me, our new venue, Adobe RC Raceway. It was good. I had a blast. It was basically the first time we got everyone together there. They added a bunch of new dirt. I've been there a few times before, and it was a little bit of an eye opener. There were some issues that they had. Tim Lime is the guy that's been running it, and he had a lot of promises to make that he made to us, and he basically put his money where his mouth is and put on a good event. The track was awesome. It's still a little bit on the smaller side, but the dirt was awesome. Yeah, we had a bunch of competitors there. Ty Mayfield, Tanner Denny, Spencer Hecker, Joe Bornhorse, Jackson Brunson, Adam was there. So it was cool. It was really cool to see everyone together for the warm-up for the Nationals.
I think Bego is in the studio right now.
He's not popping up. It's just the other one that's on there is, it just says RC Kevin.
That's me. I have a second personality, which is an issue.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about switching between 8 scale and 10 scale? Because you are out of state very often. So how is that transition going?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Depending on how you ask that question, people ask me all the time, what do you prefer, like more 8 scale or 10 scale? The transition from back and forth is super easy to me. It doesn't really come with any struggles. I think initially the perspective of going from the different track sizes, but from car to car, we have a good group of guys that race the 10 scale only and a good group of guys that race the 8 scale only for me to go back and forth is actually not that difficult. The one thing that I would say is nice is if they're so different from going to event and from track to track, it makes it like new and exciting. If I did only 10 scale, I'd probably be more burnt out, or vice versa. So that's what keeps it really fun for me is, one weekend you're working on your 10 scale shocks or your diff and you're perfecting that. And then the next weekend for 8 scale, you're working on a completely different area of the car to try to get better. And that's what makes it really exciting.
Cool. Yeah. We had Adam Drake on earlier this week, and he was saying for certain guys it's a bit harder, but it's probably because maybe Mayfield and Tebow are a bit older. You can play the younger
Yeah.
card on that one.
Well, I think obviously with being my age, I'm only 23 and being super hungry to being successful and trying to prove to myself that there's still a lot to improve on my racing craft. I think I have never really gotten the burnt out kind of feeling before. I don't even really know what that really even means. But I mean, for those guys like Adam, Mayfield, and Jared, and some of those other guys, Cavallari, I mean, they've been doing it for so long that it's a little bit more of a routine. And obviously, Ryan Mayfield's been pretty successful the last few years with age. Um, I think experience has helped some of those guys a lot. So, uh, there's guys like myself or whoever, Seth Van Dalen or some of these guys, Jared Wiggins, that are trying to come up to become, put a name in the industry that maybe are overworking and don't know what are the things that they should work on to become the best racers that they can. And obviously, guys like Ryan and Jared have perfected that. Um, so, for instance, like when we're at the track and Mayfield's got his car running and I'm running, and his car is pretty decent, but he's like he knows when to call it a day at the track and not overdo it. And someone like me or Jared Wiggins that I've learned this as I throughout the years that are just trying to like constantly work on the car, completely tear out their car, and wasteful hours, I guess you could say, where someone like Ryan uses those hours to rest, hang out, enjoy the moment. That stuff goes a long ways, more than people think. But I actually just saw Bago in, but he just jumped out.
He's been messaging me like crazy. That's the joy of going live. That's about it. Another question we had was we see of the older guard again, Jared, maybe Ryan, maybe I'll be mistaken on this one, but I see or I feel like the older guys are not racing 10 scale as much as they used to. Do you think it's tire prep? Do you think it's just time? What's around that?
It's a lot of things. I've talked about this particular topic with Jason Rona a bunch, and it is a little concerning, not for me because I do both all the time, but it it will eventually hurt them. The guys that don't do the 10 skill as much at least for the 10 skill side, you're not going to be able to just race 8 skill all the time and then show up for the 10 skill nationals and expect a podium spot because one, you got to be relevant at all these 10 skill events, learning the tire prep, the new tire sauce that's, changing constantly. And the cars are evolving so much. I mean, gosh, when I'm at the 8 skill races, I'm thinking about the last 10 skill event of what some of the things that we did for car setup. And yeah, it's crazy. It's so evolutionary. Things are changing so fast, and for those guys that aren't racing 10 scale or vice versa, you just start to become more and more irrelevant. And that's what's important to, that my sponsors is for me to stay relevant in both segments of racing. Um, for me, I think I've heard this from Jason as well. From coming from 10 scale to 8 scale, you start to find an imaginary like center point of like how much you're driving, how hard you're driving for the 8 scale cars. And I think when you go from 8 scale, run it for like a month or two straight, and then you go from 10 scale, it recenters your driving a little bit on like the scale. Instead of, you're not so one sided, you're more neutral on both perspectives, and that's what makes probably the biggest difference.
They say with athletes that it's, especially at a younger age, it's better to always do like multi-sport, football, soccer, hockey, or whatever. Do you think it's something that sort of translate by doing different aspects of the hobby, the sport, the motorsport, or however you want to call it? Um, does everything like complement each other?
Um, I think that's definitely probably true. I mean, I have taken on a hobby of play joy, I guess you could say, with some video games. I play F1. Um, I have like a wheel and pedals that a buddy let me use, and I can see a couple things when I'm driving around like the actual racetrack with the car. Like there's things that I forget about some of the corners. I'm running like on the same lap, or the same track. Um, and I feel like some of the things like 8 skill, the track's always creating character with bumps and stuff, which some of the things that maybe I've struggled with in the past. And yeah, I mean, mental toughness is a big thing that I look into. Um, Reading books, watching YouTube videos on it, and just staying exercise, going to the gym, going on runs, clearing my mind. That stuff's all super important to me.
Cool. Another question regarding 10 scale and maybe trying to simplify the tire game or race program. A lot of the companies are moving towards a good quality slick. I think the Smoothie 2 from J Concept is something that's well awaited from most racers. As a team driver, you've been racing them for a longer period of time. How much does it simplify your race program?
I mean, it is absolutely changed the game for me a dramatic amount. I mean, I've always been pro tire prep, which means I don't care how long things take to get the best result. But for the guys that are paying their way, or like the more veteran guys that don't want to do all that have the excuse, oh, I don't want to do that, I just want to throw down my car and drive. This fixed everything. It made me only glue a 2 sets per car at an event. I race, I glue them up, I sauce them, and I go run and repeat. It's been so much more fun at the events, to know that the tires work out right when you open from the bag. And I know from later down the road, hopefully that will have pre mounts to make the game even more easy. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about with Jason, an ongoing conversation. Um, so there's been we've had smoothies or slicks in the past from J Concepts, but a lot of the design that we did has changed. So in years past, we've tried them, we didn't like them over like the sanded slick. So there was a reconstructed tire mold that we made, designing of the whole sidewall design, the thickness of the rubber, the compound. The new silver compound that we're running is different. It transpired a lot, a lot. I mean, the
So
whole goal of this hobby that we do is for everyone to enjoy it at the maximum capacity. And buying a set of tires that have pins on it and gluing them, and then watching everyone else sand their tires completely bald is just simply not very fun, for those guys. For me, I grew up with, you know, with Kinwald, Brian Kinwald, that Mr. Tinkerer. Um, I didn't really care about it. I didn't even yeah, it's probably not the funnest thing, but to me, I like that stuff and trying to find that edge. Um, and now it's a lot easier. I mean, I can't complain at all. Given my schedule, all the events that I travel to, it makes it easier to not take a weekend out of your schedule to make 14 sets of tires ahead
Yeah,
of time. So it's a
definitely.
big difference.
Is there a special sauce that works with most tracks, or you go with the flavor because every dirt's a bit different? So,
Yeah,
is there a go-to sauce, or you
yeah.
pretty much
I
use
have
what the?
I built relationships with several people. Um, in the RC industry that make sauces. Obviously, the Old Faithful, the yellow liquid wrench is pretty traditional. For me, I found with the J Concepts rubber, um, the SXT sauce works very good. The Baja Blast works good on the like winter cold tracks, along with the FDJ. Frank Denny has made great sauce for a lot of years. So I typically bounce back and forth with either the FDJ or the SXT sauce. Um, and then for like races like SDRC, which we're going there next week for the J Concepts INS, the local sauce there that they like using, I believe is it's called the TDK. Um,
That's
so
what Matty G uses, I
that's what
think.
Matty G
Yeah,
uses. So I used that sauce last year for that Top Gun shootout event, and it worked good. I can't complain. That's usually one of the things that I've learned over the years. The local track, uh, the local hot track guys that race there, the track crew. If there's a local sauce that they use, I'm like all for it because it's like they're there constantly and they know what works for their dirt. So yeah, there's definitely local advantages and different sauces I use for different tracks.
and also I think that's one of the advantages of running bigger race teams or stuff like that. Like if you have questions, obviously you know the associated cars really, really well, but sometimes local people are going to try something a bit different, which sometimes could be interesting. Same for tires. So there's a lot of questions in the comments about new cars. Is there anything you can say about that?
I mean, I know for sure we're the guys at Associate are constantly working on stuff. I wish that I knew more information. I'm just a driver. We do a lot of testing with new parts and upgrades. Um, but as far as new cars to come, I mean, a lot of our stuff just got released, so I don't really know exactly what they're talking about. But
Cool.
that's really all I can say.
There's always something changing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of our platforms are working well. I know for sure that we have a lot of new engineers that have come on board with Associated, the group of guys they have at the shop, TJ, Kyle, Kurt, um, Billy. A lot of those guys are constantly working on new things. Um, yeah, I can't be more thankful for the group of guys that I'm affiliated with, and I'm looking forward to our 2022 and beyond. It's been super awesome with the guys that we have. We have a lot of good racers too. We have Dustin Evans, um, Davide with the 8 skill stuff, Aiden Horn. I'm super stoked with all those guys. Cole Tollard, Lee Sester. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, Lee has been taking up a couple of strides too over the past maybe year or 18 months. I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in a very,
Yeah,
very near
I
future.
love Lee. I mean, me, Jackson, and Lee are all good buddies. Lee has a lot of passion. He runs a lot of locally in Florida. I super stoked to have him kind of be more involved with the racing stuff. Not that he wasn't before, but yeah, I'm super stoked.
I also had two different people ask me in private, do you still play Warzone with Jackson?
Yeah, I do. And we haven't played in a little bit. Earlier today, we actually jumped on over a month and a half. We took a break, but
That's
yeah,
rough.
we do play.
It's tough when you get back to playing and you don't you're slower and everybody's still faster than
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, we definitely got KO'd pretty fast when we jumped into the new map, but we're actually pretty good players. I wouldn't say we're something special, but we're definitely pretty decent. Um,
Nice, nice.
but yeah,
That's fun. Are you more of a Vanguard or Battle Royale type of player?
I'm more of a battle royale. I mean, the new map I'm not super happy with, but um, yeah, it's pretty good. The battle royale thing, jumping into a map with 150 other players, it's pretty fun. The team death matches or the free for all doesn't really get
Yeah,
me all excited. I mean, I've been a Call of Duty fan for since I could remember. Um, so I mean, I played thousands and tens of thousands of free for all matches, and as soon as I started playing Warzone during the pandemic in March of 2020, I was in love with all that new stuff. So
it's crazy because we moved house and I think my PlayStation didn't get any use in the past 4 years. Pandemic hit, started playing Warzone with the AE squad and just got hooked. So yes, we know this is an RC podcast or live, but we're all nerds like the good old hobby wing motto. So Call of Duty sometimes swings in.
yeah, I was on the PS4 grind, and then my guys Alex K and Jackson, we all they peer pressured me into getting a PC, so that was a pretty big purchase.
Yeah,
I
same
basically
here.
have a diesel of a computer that's probably overpowered for playing Call of Duty, but I got it. And yeah, I got two monitors right here that you can't see, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean,
It's
it's
all
fun.
about
I
the
get to
FPS.
it's fun to yeah. Well, now we're playing some F1, so it's pretty cool. I mean, I a majority of my time I'm obviously wrenching and doing a lot of preparation for events, doing a lot of emailing, answering people back on Facebook the best I possibly can, and yeah, it's been pretty fun.
Good. Yeah. Trying to
I
release the
don't see
mental.
I
Yeah,
don't see
he's been
Dago.
his stuff is not really working well, and I don't know if he's watching this right now, but he's messaging me, and he's not a happy camper.
He joined in twice for like 30 seconds, and he was like moving his camera,
His
and I was
headset's not working, so that's the issue.
all he's got to do is just go on his PC, click the link, and that's it. He
I
doesn't need a
know.
headset.
I don't, I don't know what to add to this. How much do you hate or do you love the new Breggy bodies?
I love them. I am all in on them. I think they're better. I think it looks pretty cool. Um, I'm not exactly a huge activist for um, well, in racing. Like, I don't care what it looks like if it performs better. I know there's people in the hobby that want it to look like more of a truck. I do not care if it looks like a truck. If you could, if it needed a mohawk on the hood to go faster and have more steering, I will do it. It does not matter to me. I think it's different. Um, the truggy class in general, I think there should be a conversation to potentially get rid of the class. Um,
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, I mean, I think, for instance, like the 8 scale nationals, I think it'd be better for everyone. It would take an event off the schedule. It would help with a lot. So, for instance, the 8 scale fuel nationals, maybe just change that to the 8 scale nationals, and we race 8 scale buggy and e buggy and no
Yeah.
truggy.
Okay.
That way, people can, well, one, it would take an event off the schedule. It would help with people prioritizing going from either to the E Nationals or the 8 skill Nationals. It would wash that away. It would save budget for teams. It would save budget for normal customers that would want to go to both.
Mm-hmm.
And Truggy tires are really expensive. I think,
Interesting.
yeah, I think that can change a little bit of the actual format itself. I think there could be, you get rid of Truggy, but you add more runtime for Buggy at these events. Just stuff like that. In Europe, they don't really race Truggy. I'm not saying that they're doing it right. Um, there's not really a huge market in Truggy as much as people think. Um, I like racing it. I think it's pretty fun. It's a big dumb truck. Um, but I think long term it would make better sense if it was gone.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Thanks for the insight. Hopefully they don't hate us too much. So we'll go over a question if you don't mind. Did you test the new B74 steering block, the HT0?
I was one of the first ones. We did all the prototype running with those steering plates. Personally, I've only ran them on carpet. I did I the testing that we did, I initially did not like them. Well, the test with them I did not like. They had a lot of steering. But when I backed off the EPAs from my normal setting, I actually went faster lap times than I did with the steering plate, the stock steering plates. Now, with that said, I don't think it's all really, first of all, personal preference. Second, I think that most of the guys that have ran them on dirt have liked them. I have not personally ran them on dirt. I know a lot of our team guys have and liked them, and that's kind of why we kind of hit the button and made them. But my forward drive's been working really good. I haven't got like a weekend to just run 10 scale on my own time. So typically at these 10 scale events, I want to show up with what I got and not change anything and just race. Focus on all that stuff. But yeah, I have I know a lot about the zero Ackerman plates or the zero HT zeros for the four-wheel drive, and I definitely think they are worthy of a try. And yeah.
You talked about EPAs, and I got a funny story about you, and I'd like you to maybe comment on it afterwards. I'm not going to put you in a pickle. Don't worry about it. So Bego, who's not there because his computer can't work, you guys practiced, I think, before the 2019 or 2020 DNC, and he was having issues and whatnot, and you started playing with his remote. So I know that you toned down the speed of his servos on the throttle and on the steering. Then you played with EPAs and all that stuff. So most of the time, average Joes or just Joes like myself, most of the time we have everything just cranked to the max. I found it really interesting that that's something that you guys played with. Do you want to maybe say a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, this topic is a topic that I've been talking about with Brent at Associated for 10 years now. He kind of inspired me to do more research about the radio's manual, the full functionality with the radio, and it's probably changed a lot of the industry's game with the radio settings. The radio settings are so crucial to having a well driving vehicle than most people think. That's why when people message me about what radio to get, and the higher end radios that are for sale are definitely more preferred, especially if you're going to spend the money and go all in on the racing. But as far as EPAs goes and like the dual rate and stuff, it is super critical. If the more you overdo the steering throw, The more it starts binding up parts, the shocks can't work very freely because it's putting a lot of pressure on the shock shafts. It strains the servo. Electronics will go out quicker. This is definitely on the top of the priority list to do a full breakdown of how to set your EPAs. It's honestly so complex that I need to have a different setup for it on my end, and that is definitely a goal that I'm trying to do. What I mean by that is just different camera angles. Um, I'll need different. I'll need multiple radios in different cars to talk about because when I do a video on YouTube, majority of my audience that's watching, um, hopefully it's from different car manufacturers of the audience, but they'll want one for their vehicle that they run. So it's gonna be hard to explain, like, just because on the left and right EPA number says 82, 82 on both sides doesn't mean if you race for, low C or run a low C vehicle, it will be the same. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, um, once I have some things set up, I'll have a better picture to paint for those guys that want to know how to set it up, because I guarantee you 90% of the people that are watching this video now and the people that are watching the video that I will make will have no idea the things that I'll talk about. Their stuff will be totally jacked up,
That's
and that's okay, because it's okay to not be right, but it's also a problem where people are so frustrated that they're constantly hitting the pipe or the car's not going straight and they're flipping it in the straightaway. Like, that's all stuff the radio settings, setting it properly, can fix. And my goal to this whole picture is for people to not get frustrated and quit the hobby. We don't want that. I don't want that.
I agree. We have a new track in Montreal, so one day when all this goes away, we'll be able to host you guys. We have a top of the notch new facility in Montreal, like pits. There's 4 tracks. It's amazing, but we had a lot of influx of new drivers and stuff like that, and not having a car that's properly set, just properly built, uh, good. Radio setup and all that jazz makes so much of a difference on the experience that everyone has. Um, Look at the videos that Spencer does. Brent Telke gave a really good build advice. If you're not sure, there's guys like Nick Wantlet and Cali, or Matty G. I think he rebuilds cars. Make sure that your car is nice and sound before it sets on the track, and it's going to change the whole experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely opened up a whole new perspective for me about the radio things. And initially, it could be so um, intimidating for people, but I wish when we were at these events, the schedules are so like nonstop. We're there from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. I wish that there was maybe a little bit less running for the pro guys, so that there could be a set time in the day to host more of a clinic to help those guys that are there racing on their own dime or whatever, to ensure that their stuff set up right. It doesn't matter really what car you're running or whatever. Um, that's kind of stuff that I would love to see that hobby or the industry change with, because we're ultimately there for those guys. Without those guys being there, we can't be there.
Yeah.
Um, and I wish some of these race organizers can do something about it. Um, that's just my 2 cents.
Good. Another question about JC. Do you see a big difference having the tire rubber band inside, like the support wall? Do you see a
Yeah,
big
this
difference?
is this is something that has been pretty um, pretty exciting for us. We've had this stuff in the bag for over a year now. We've never really actually ran it until the first time at the 10 scale nationals last year, and it's definitely not something that you're going to do every time, but you'll definitely want to try them out. 8 scale, there's some of the things that we've been running, and it's been working very good on 8 scale too. Uh, I mean, anywhere where you feel like you could use a little bit less steering, or you wish you could turn the wheel more, but you can't because you feel like maybe the car's going to flip or it's going to oversteer. These bands on the front, I've only been running them in the front. This isn't really like a front and rear kind of thing, at least at the moment. Where if you want to, turn the wheel more so you don't feel like you're, butt puckering or whatever, turn the wheel a little bit more. This is something that will fix that without a question.
Good. Have you
I
tested
mean, I
in
mean,
8 scale? Sorry.
yeah, this is definitely something that we've ran on 8 scale a few times. I actually ran it at the Nitro Challenge track where you would think you wouldn't want it, and it worked pretty good. I don't think I preferred it over the stock stuff, just running it stock. But I mean, this, like I said, this goes back to buying a set of tires, gluing them up, and sanding them. So it's like it is, it's adding another option for people where initially we didn't really want to release them because it opened up a whole new can of worms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's out there for people. People can make their own opinion on them. Um, it was something that probably had to be released just because it's an upgrade or it's an option for people. Um, and people are tinker. People in this hobby all love to tinker to a certain extent, and it's not something that's been common in our industry to have of this sort of tire testing running, and tires are everything now. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty cool.
Another open question. What's so Jonathan Hilton says, hi Spencer. What's something quick, cheap, or easy that pro racers do that you see club racers not doing? Something that could help their car, driving, or race program?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, that's a very open question. So, what's something quick, cheap, or easy that pro racers do that you don't see club racers doing?
Um, Definitely a pretty big, wide open question, but I
I know.
think uh, a lot of people that I see that club race or at races, they don't 10 scale specifically. They don't wash their tires. I wash my tires like immediately with water and simple green with a tire bucket. As soon as I get off from the track racing or marshaling, I clean my tires and I stick them in a Ziploc bag. Like I don't want them to be sitting on the bench with them dirty because that gets them unconditioned. I guess you could say it gets them all like dry. Even so, when I clean them, I put them in a bag just so that like the dirty air at the track. When you're inside a building and you put up stuff on out like on your table, by the end of the weekend, it's like super dirty and dusty. So I'm protecting my tires from the dirty and dust to keep them as conditioned as possible. So, which helps with, I think the tires perform better on the track. They have more traction. Um, and I don't know if that's because most people are lazy at the track. That like the guys, it's pretty cheap to get a tire bucket and a brush, um, buy some simple green and a rag. So I guess that would be my number one demerit on some people.
That's probably the cheapest option you could suggest. Good. What tools you wrench with?
I use the MIP tools. I've also recently started to use the J Concepts tool set. It's basically an all-in-one um, tool with an aluminum handle that's super lightweight for when I travel. But for the most part, the MIP tips is what I use.
Good. Any chance you'll be racing? Well, let me buy a vowel. Racing in the Pacific Northwest this year. Anything on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely definitely some events that are we're planning on doing. It's just so up in the air with the World's Year happening right now. There, I want to go to the World's warm up in Spain. So depending on what we decide to do on that, it might change a little bit of the races that are happening out that way, or even here at the moment. So it's just kind of up in the year.
Okay. Do you read real car engineer books, or do you
No,
don't know? Do
no.
you think it transfers one to another, or
I honestly don't really know. Um, I mean, as far as the general definitions of roll centers, I think is pretty accurate. But for RC cars, I've learned there's no such thing as by the book. It's all what it feels like on the track, um, and things like that. Because when people actually describe when they're driving, or and I'm a victim of it too. Um, and when we say, I feel that the car has no traction, like, or I feel that the car is going to flip if I turn the wheel more. When people say that, or when I say that, it's really not possible to feel because you're there's no connection to feel. It's all eye based. Your eyes are telling you what the car is doing or what you're seeing the car is doing. So that's the difference, that the perspective that I've been able to see the difference in. So when I say I feel the car has no traction, is because you're seeing the car not going where the inputs that you're putting on the radio to the car, it's not connected.
yeah?
So that's really the difference with the settings and all that stuff, explanation on things. So the biggest thing about all this stuff um, is a trial and error. There's no right or wrong. Definitely from driver to driver, they definitely like different handling things. Um, but like for the pro guys, I think, you know, I've driven Tebow's car. He loves Tebow's 8 scale car. He drives with no, his steering spring is so loose you can't feel the center point in the steering wheel. So when you turn right and then go back to neutral, you don't know where neutral's at until you see the car turning left. Um, so I the, in general, the normal way of it is the radio has a center point. It stops at center. So it was really interesting for me when I drove his car. I got around just fine, but I was definitely not. I didn't prefer it by any stretch.
Yeah, I think that's why he had a really tough time with the M17, and he went back to what he already had.
Yeah, I mean the springs are super sensitive. I know when I first went on to Fataba, their springs were really thin and light. So it was like similar to that feeling, and we did a lot of updates and a lot of testing and tuning with the new steering springs. That's why we have our new radios now. But yeah, the Samwa stuff, he didn't like it by any stretch. He didn't like the way that the technology worked with how it was working with the car, and that stuff's a big factor. It's as soon as you start thinking that there might be a problem, but and maybe in reality that there's not, mentally you're not all there, and I don't blame him for going back. I think the Samoa stuff works good, and I think it probably would have been just fine for him, but for him to go back to KO, it's obviously a big mental thing for him, and I probably made the right call.
Yeah, definitely. Do you play with different wings for tuning aids? Because I believe when you sent me the body and the wing, you had the J concept wing with the wicker bill um, Dremel. I think is that. Do you play a lot with that?
Yeah, the wing stuff's been super critical on 10 scale and 8 scale, but for instance, the wing that you got with the J Concepts, the F2I wing, there's actually an option to like cut both sides and then X-Acto blade the center um, wicker bill off. So it's actually an X-Acto blade. It's a clean cut line to take it off.
I thought your
And
Dremel game was pretty good.
yeah, it's a pretty cool design that they did. The J Concept wing. So you have the option to keep the wicker bill on to help with more downforce. But it seems like recently there's been enough traction at these tracks to not really need the wicker bill. When you add the wicker bill, you obviously gain traction but lose steering. And with a lot of these like indoor races and like even like the outdoor races, you need steering with like the ungroomed tracks because it's not grooved. There's not like natural steering or weight transfer to get the steering. And the cutting the gurney off has been helping a lot.
Good. Did you try also the Lexan wing that goes on the Lexan part that goes on the wing?
I've definitely ran that. I don't run it because I crash and it just gets destroyed. Um, I think it's an option that we have to sell, but honestly, it's not really. Well, one, I hate cutting it out. Um, it hurts my hands when I cut it out, but I think it could be an option and it could be really valuable at certain tracks, but I don't run it.
Good. Um, that's probably one of the only good questions from Norm Stupid Fast. Do you sometimes go to club racing just to club race? You go there incognito, or is that hard for you?
Oh yeah, I mean when I'm home, I love to go to Hobby Action and go there on a Wednesday night. I'm there when the doors open at 10 a.m. and I'm there till 11:30, right when club racing's over. I love hanging out with the local crew guys. They know me very well. I definitely don't like to sit in the corner. I love to pit right in the middle with all the guys and BS with everybody. And the people make fun of me. Oh, Mr. Big Shot is here, and I just want to be a normal guy. Obviously, it feels kind of cool, but I mean, when I'm there, I really take some extra time to help a lot of those guys there with some education on the car stuff or tires. If someone breaks a car in the middle of a club race, I'm right there to help fix it, to throw it back out. Um, or I'll give them my car to race. I'm just there to have some fun, just like everyone else.
Nice. That's okay. How many bodies do you go through in a year?
Probably if you depending on who you ask. If you ask me, um, not that many. But if you ask like Jason, the guys that are paying them to get painted, it's a lot. Uh, I mean, I'd probably say two, two or three 8 scale bodies per car, just because there's a lot
That's
of.
not a lot.
Yeah, I mean for 8 scale, so it's 3, 6, 9 8 scale bodies. It could be more. I mean, so like one body to start the year for each car, one in the middle of the year, and then one for like the nationals. I mean, it's. I mean, if you don't think that's a lot, then it's not a lot.
That's not so much. Jason, record this. It's not so bad. Um, so he takes care of the of having them painted for you, or do you have like a set painter?
Well, he has a deal worked out with Larry. I mean, Larry Genoa's been my painter since 10 years ago. Larry's been really good to me. I thank him so much. So Jason and Paul do the body stuff for me. They send the bodies to him. I'll send them an email like, hey, I need this body, this body, this body.
And
They'll
Jason
send it
says
to
that's too
Larry.
much.
They'll send that to Larry. Um, I mean, actually, to be quite fair, Jason, if he had it his way, he would want a new body for every race I travel to. Just because he likes the way new bodies look, it's good for pictures for them for social media. Um, but then I pay Paul to cut them out for me, just to help. He's one really good with the Dremel. I would say he's masterclass with the Dremel actually, and it saves time for me because there's times where I'll get bodies 2 days before an event, and I have like in years past I would have to cut them out, and I got so much going on. I have the right to say that I don't want to do that, and he does all that stuff for me, and he cuts it out, and we have a good system worked out, and I couldn't be any more happier. So Paul Wynn, hands off to him. The guy's a legend. Obviously, those guys at J Concepts do an amazing job with the body stuff, and I couldn't be more thankful.
So, why do you think that Jason always has nice bodies? Is it because he has a new one every time, or he doesn't race enough?
Well, what do you mean?
Like his bodies always look like pristine.
Oh, it's probably because he doesn't race enough. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But I mean, when he does race and his car is on the bench, it's like magnificent. It's
I know.
awesome.
All right, let's go back to
I
the
actually
question.
really love his paint job too. Him and Paul's looks awesome. Um, yeah, it's always pretty neat.
And for those of you that don't follow Paul Wynn on social media, he always has new JC bits once in a while there. I'm going to go through questions quickly. So we had a question regarding the e-buggy a couple of times, and I skipped it. I'm sorry, Jeremy. Do you play around with weights for the weight bias? Because I think a lot of guys now are moving the shorty battery very forward. I think you did a video on having a B74 A block that's going to be blocking the battery. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we did a little bit of some running with the traditional big pack for the e-buggy. Trying to remember. Currently, I decided to go with kind of the what seems to be the more popular battery, this small 4-cell brick battery. I pushed it all the way forward. I pushed the speed control all the way forward. I mean, I'm not putting these cars on scales to like make it difference, but it seems like with the e-buggy stuff, the weight being really far forward or more neutral towards the front of the car helps with the dramatic weight transfer because people don't really realize with an e-buggy or with the nitro car, there's a clutch and the flywheel, or excuse me, the clutch bell spins, it free spins until the clutch engages or until the brakes are engaged. Well, with the with the 8 scale motor, there's like natural like drag because of the magnets in the motor. So it might not seem like a big deal, but when the weight's more in one spot, it doesn't throw much weight. If there's like equal weight front and rear, it seems like there's more weight transfer to the car. But if it's all in one spot, it's like the car's more flat. And then it seems to be more of an advantage with 8 scale stuff or the e-buggy stuff. I mean, obviously, there's new configurations out there with like saddle packs people are doing with, which I think is really cool. But with our current platform, um, we're getting the job done with the brick pack and changing that. And I think it's a good upgrade for those who have seen that video or seen the post or pictures of my e-buggy. I highly recommend doing that.
Good. Have you tried playing with the clutch for electric cars?
I personally haven't. I know Adam Drake's done a lot of that. I know I've talked to Mayfield about it. I think he's tried it a long time ago, and it wasn't that. It was a more of a pain in the butt. I don't think it held up very well in uh, in the e-buggy. The efficiency changes a little bit with the battery life, so I personally haven't. And Associated doesn't really make one. I don't think our motor mount really allows for it, but yeah.
Good. Anything that stands out about the associated team for 22? A couple of younger guys are taking strides. Anything that stands out?
I mean, I think what the biggest thing that we have a good foundation. Um, we lost some good people. One of my best friends, Jackson. Um, I think there's a lot of maybe negatives that ended up making a positive. I think it's like a little bit of a reboot, a little bit. Um, we have, like I said, a couple more engineers that are on the team now, working at the shop. So I know those guys are constantly working on stuff. So I think with some of these 8 skill races coming up and 10 skill races, I think the vibe will be a lot different, and that's just the stuff that I'm looking forward to with everything. So yeah, I'm pretty
Good.
excited.
I think we've got time for one last question. We'll go with Chris Riley. So, what's your biggest challenge racing a nitro buggy?
The biggest challenge, I think the biggest challenge in general with Nitro and Nitro Buggy specifically, I guess, is it's so um how should I put this? It's so crazy. You can go out there with one tank and the car is just absolutely amazing, and then you're up again on your next qualifier 4 hours later and the track's different and the car can just be so difficult to drive. That's the challenges that I personally face is maybe the adapting part. That's really the biggest challenge with nitro running, whether it's truggy or buggy. Obviously, truggy it's bigger. It's got bigger tires, more shock travel, so it's not as like detrimental to the car. But nitro buggies just it's so sensitive um, to all that stuff. Ruts, the tires are only so big, the shocks are only so long. Um, that's the biggest challenge. I mean, obviously, Nitro Buggy is one of the most popular cars, so that's like most of our time that when we're at an event, we're constantly, you know, looking over it, ensuring that it's built properly. Um, you're putting so much time and effort into it that sometimes it's maybe a bad thing. Um, and I feel that, and then it could be just confidence based. I mean, there's definitely been some struggles that we've had with the associated car at some events, and then other times it's the best car at the event, and maybe that can come with consistency from track to track, and that's something that we're always trying to work on with the car, but. We won a crap ton of races with it. We have several national titles that have been won with it, nitro challenges. Not I've never won a nitro challenge personally yet, but
Not yet.
It's a world champion. It's a world champion car. With Davide, it's won a lot of races out there in Europe, um, and we got a lot of guys running it, and a lot of guys love the car. We have Kurt Wanger. He's more, I would say, of our 10 scale designer, but he's been a big part of we have development teams for 8 skill and 10 skill in separate segments, and he's been pretty involved with the 8 skill stuff, seeing things that we need to improve on, the things that he's maybe has some experience with some of the designing stuff, um, and I'm just excited to see all the different cards that we have put all in on the table and see where we lie when the time is right. So for me, I just want to go race. I want to do the best I possibly can with what I'm given. Sure, there's times where there's drivers that are just super pissed off because something's not working. I'm more of on the relaxed side. I know that there's only so much that I can actually um, be in control of. So I think that's what um, makes a good working relationship with the guys back at the shop. Um, and yeah, I it's been super cool. I've been a part of a lot of some development stuff with in the years past, and associates groomed me to become who I am today. And I know there's been a lot of things that I personally have worked on and got better at, and couldn't be happier.
Good. Appreciate
But
you having me. Appreciate the time. I think it was
yeah, this
pretty
is
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked that we had a good guys in here in the chat.
Hopefully,
ask
you had a bit
questions and
more
stuff.
fun than just talking to yourself.
It's definitely different. The time goes by pretty fast. I mean, obviously, for those who are watching, you guys know RC Kevin. Go check him out on Facebook and Instagram. They do their normal podcast. But yeah, this is cool. We'll have to do another one. We'll definitely schedule another one with Bago. I know he's probably punching air right now. But Bago, I hope you are at DNC. You gotta find a way to get out there, and I gotta have my pit buddy there if happened for the main.
Him and Richard. I've heard so many stories about Richard that's just walking up. And I think it was at SIC. I was watching him just walk up to the line, just drop your car nice and chilled out. The stories about Richards are
Yeah,
awesome.
Richard's pretty nuts. I sometimes I can't handle him, but we're basically the same person. That's what probably makes it really difficult to actually uh, have a good relationship with. But I know Richard, his heart and soul is in the right place for the racing, and I couldn't really ask for a better right hand man to be a part of the crew. He's a good team player. He wants to make sure everyone on the team's doing good. It's important to me. It's with RC racing. It's not exactly a team sport because everyone's still racing for themselves. But in all reality, I mean, this is a much bigger picture than just racing. It's a hobby. Everyone's got to sell cars to stay in business, and without people having fun, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So it's a big factor. So, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. I'm starving, and for those who don't know who we are, just check us out on Facebook. And yeah, it should be good time on the next video that we do.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks, boss man. We will chat later.
Cheers.
Bye bye.